But I just really was stunned and heartbroken to see what I saw walking into that federal prison for women in Danbury, Connecticut. Now, I was an incarcerated woman, and that was quite a change from how I was accustomed to walking into prisons. But the fact of the matter is that you could just see very clearly in this very large prison in Connecticut the warehousing of black and brown people, and that was just something that really changed the course of my life. And it brought home to me how very relevant this conversation is that we're having this morning. So I know that was a huge intro to what we're talking about, but that's pretty much who I am. So now we started our organization, Families for Justice as Healing, within the prison yard in Danbury, Connecticut, and when I was released, I brought that organization outside with me, and so that's what we do. We are a legislative advocacy and policy organization, and we advocate for alternatives to incarceration for people in general, but we have a focus unapologetically on the issue of women and incarceration.
That was not at all a lengthy intro. I think that is
these hard-on crime tactics to eliminate drug use, across the country. Well, the fact of the matter is, they created a war on drugs. They only targeted black and brown people in urban communities across the country, and as a result of that, they only found drugs in those areas. Okay, and so they ramped up the penalties for drug use and for drug sales. And it took us down this very slippery slope of having, more than 2.5 million people currently incarcerated in this country, the largest incarceration population of the world, but also led to this uptick in incarceration of predominantly black women as well. And so really, it's transferred that ability for people who made money off of the backs of black and brown people, and when industrialization ended, they had no place to provide, employment for masses of working class people, and so they created a prison industrial complex to create those jobs for people, but they're not jobs necessarily for the people who, the purpose of the black and brown man was to be the commodity that was placed into those prisons, okay? So we're now controlled by a lot of private prisons. Private prisons are traded on the stock market, and the 13th Amendment of the Constitution makes slavery illegal except for a person convicted of a crime. So it's legal slavery. We're selling black and brown bodies on the stock market, and it's all due to this scheme that was created called the war on drugs, right? So when those of us who advocate for an end to the war on drugs, we're not advocating for somebody to go out and find our brother and lock him up. That's not what the war on drugs means. Ending the war on drugs, means just stopping, mostly decriminalization or legalization to create those things so that we can stop incarcerating predominantly black and brown people for selling or using drugs. Now that's a whole nother conversation that other people still don't get. Like, why would you want to legalize drugs? What is it about that would make a difference? But it actually would make a difference, because as long as drugs are illegal, we create that stigma that allows people to not get the help they need. It allows law enforcement to control all the money. That's going to determine what programs we use, what programs we don't use. It's going to continue the racist prosecution of black and brown people for the sale and use of drugs. Again, we're not the majority of people that do that, but we are clearly the majority of people that are prosecuted and incarcerated for it. So we have to start looking at things and understanding, educating ourselves, read something, pick up a magazine, pick up something that will really help our younger population here understand what we're talking about and the need for us all to get on board to begin to dismantle this.
What about to that critic?